for you. There's I Spy, the sports world as well, and there's the big movie, Stella Dallas, at 3 a.m. But now they've been practicing and they're ready for the concert.
February the 5th, 1987, and coaches from all over London, full of excited school children, are on their way to the Royal Festival Hall. 130 of them are from the Inner London Education Authority's Tower Hamlets Saturday Centre for Young Musicians. They have been working very hard for 4 months and will be joining the London Philharmonic Orchestra for a performance of Beginner's Please, written specially for them by Carl Davis. So the dressing rooms that have echoed to the tuning up of orchestras like the Vienna Philharmonic and the Chicago Symphony now play host to the 8 to 14-year-olds from the Tower Hamlets Centre for Young Musicians.
If you haven't had your violin tuned, can you bring it here now? Right, there you are, Amy. Right, Lisa, I'll do your next.
Writing a piece of music for children to play with a professional orchestra posed considerable problems for Carl Davis. He decided on the form of a theme and variations.
The point of a theme and variations is that you take a simple theme and put it through its paces. You develop it, you show it in different guises. It can become different sorts of things. So the first problem is always, of course, to find your theme. Well, certainly that is the most difficult problem for me, because the theme has to have certain qualities from which will spring the composition. It isn't even that it need be wonderfully attractive in its own right, because some of the most marvelous sets of variations by Beethoven are based really on a sort of nonsense theme. But it simply has got the quality that enables you to play with it. So I found my theme, and which really was almost like variations on "God Save the Queen." It is just a little hymn, almost, which goes in that way and goes on from there, and is quite simple. And I thought, well, I'll just have the students, everybody who's around, the piano four hands, the strings, the violas, the new basses, they will make the first statement of it on their own without the LPO. And then I thought, well, no, I'll go back and I'll put in a very hard introduction for the LPO, really show them working very hard. And even that begins in a peculiar way of the second violins playing an exercise rather badly, sort of like a terrible exercise. So I will instruct the LPO second violinists to play really rather badly. So I think that will be the first joke of the piece, is we're expecting them to be marvelous, but of course they're going to start out by sounding like students. That will very quickly change, and they're going to become splendid. Then we have the theme as played by the students, and then we have the first variations. First variation, and the first variation is actually the theme as played by the student cellos, who I thought were really particularly gifted and sounded particularly good. So we suddenly have the first little variation on the original melody, accompanied by the LPO playing pizzicato. So again, they still haven't come into their own yet. The second variation was a variation in quaver rhythms, which I thought again was a useful educational thing. So the theme suddenly began to go. And and so on, and so that we learn about playing in quavers. As if we've learned how to play crotchets, we're now going to learn about quavers, and that's the point, and that goes on and is quite a warm thing. Then the third variation is actually a variation in scale exercises, and we go back to the LPO playing rather badly what sounds like an exercise, and then they start playing the theme as almost a sort of like a little trumpet call, against which the students are learning their exercises. I thought I would then have a variation in which the students would learn about pizzicato, and we would give the piano four hands a chance. And the LPO soloists, the leaders of each section, would actually have a chance to show off a bit around it. So we suddenly hear the students go, play pizzicato, and the student pianists go, answer. The next variation is a waltz. This has proved very hard to put together because the teachers of the students say they're not used to hearing notes or seeing notes fly by so fast on the page. So they're having a bit of time, and also there are gaps which they don't really know what's going to go on. The sort of magic of the waltz starts happening. In a way, the cha-cha, which is an important factor, is going to be supplied by the LPO. But they're going to play. The theme has now become a waltz. And so on, that all that starts happening, and it gets good. Again, I've written virtuoso things. All sorts of stuff for LPO to show off with as the students go on playing. Go on playing the simple things. So we have a waltz. Then I thought it would be nice for them to do a little lullaby, that the theme would then become a little lullaby, again played by the student strings, and we have another variation of the original theme going. Magical key change, LPO, and pianos. And so on, and that's lullaby to the end, this sort of exchange of simple thing. And then I thought it would be fun for them to play the little theme as a march. And then when I got to this march, I suddenly realized, oh, I've got my finale. Can't go past that. So suddenly the students begin to learn about something called col legno. You play with the wooden part of the bow. And then the theme becomes a march, and we suddenly hear. And so we get very pomp and circumstance style with that. We get the middle section again changes key. Maybe even put the pomp and circumstance march, retard, the pomp and circumstance retard in it. Back to exercises for a finale, and so on, and we end with this sort of a sense of a nice big finish with triumph for students and teachers.
At first, at the beginning of it was really hard, but now it's just become easier for me.
At first I got lost about every 5 notes when I first played, but now I just find it really easy.
Well, at first it was a shock, but now that all the time's come, I feel very nervous. I like the piece, I like it a lot, but it's a bit hard in places, but I feel quite shocked to play to Lady Diana.
You feel quite good being at the festival hall, playing in front of the Princess of Wales.
I feel like a film star because I never thought I'd come here to play before. I think it's quite a nice place.
So the children from the Tower Hamlets Saturday Centre joined the London Philharmonic Orchestra, conducted by Carl Davis, for the first performance of Beginner's Please in the presence of Her Royal Highness the Princess of Wales. Afterwards, to round off the day, all the children were invited to a reception where they chatted to the princess.
She said, "Do you play more than one instrument?" And I said, "No." And she said, "What do you play?" And I said, "I play the violin." And she said, "Let's hope you grow up to be a nice player."
And when I shake Diana's hand, as soon as I went back home, sort of like, I just kept my hands up in the air because I didn't want nobody to touch it and all this. And Mum was really surprised when she heard about it.
At the end, there was only one way to sum up.
brilliant.
A booklet is available written by Sheila Nelson describing the group teaching method. Price £3. To order the booklet, please send a cheque or postal order made out to Thames Television plc to Beginners Please, PO Box 2LE, London W1A 2LE.